Hi, I'm professional sports handicapper Ross Benjamin reporting for the Offshore Gaming Association. That's OSGA.com, your number one source for information on the offshore sportsbook industry. That's OSGA.com. It's Friday, June 28th, and I'm going to be discussing the three-game weekend series in the NL Central Division between the first place Chicago Cubs and the last place Cincinnati Reds. Having said that, the Cubs in first, as I alluded to, but just a 6.5 game lead over fifth place Cincinnati in a very competitive NL Central. This series will take place in Cincinnati. The Reds have gone 4-2 against the Cubs this year, going 2-1 at home, and an identical 2-1 at Wrigley Field. The Cubs are very good, 29-16 at Wrigley Field this season. However, on the road, not so much so. 15-21 in road games. The Cincinnati Reds have played 44 of their first 78 games on the road, and they're 18-16 on their home field. Getting off a little bit off the subject line here, I need to say this because I've felt this way for quite a while now. This is a Cincinnati Reds team I think that could be very dangerous in the second half of the season. Their bullpen has been solid all year. Their starting pitching is more than adequate, and their hitting has been the issue. And when you look at this lineup and this roster, they've vastly underachieved in that department. And then with, like I just touched upon, they're going to be playing more at home than on the road down the stretch of the season. So keep an eye on the Cincinnati Reds ball club in the second half of the year. Getting back to the subject line, the Reds have lost 4 games in a row heading into the series. All 4 of those games took place on the road. However, that 4-game losing streak was preceded by a 6-game winning streak, and Cincinnati has won 4 in a row on their home field. The Reds are also coming off a day off on Thursday, and Cincinnati is a solid 7-5 following a day off this year. However, it must be noted they've lost 4 games in a row following a day off, and in all 4 of those games they scored just 1 run on each occasion. The Chicago Cubs are coming off yesterday's 9-7 home win over the Atlanta Braves, and that despite that win, the Cubs are just 7-10 in their last 17 games, and they're coming off a 10-game homestand in which they went 5-5. The Cubs are 18-28 on the road versus NL Central Division teams over the last 2 seasons. That's starting with last year into this year. So that was a bit surprising when I looked at that statistic in light of the fact of the success they've had on the field during the past 2 seasons. The starting pitching matchups in this series, let's start by saying Chicago will send 3 left-handers to the Hill this weekend, or scheduled to send 3 left-handers to the Hill, I should say. Cole Hamels, Jose Quintana, and John Lester are scheduled to make the starts this weekend at Cincinnati. And the Reds will go with 3 right-handed starters in Sonny Gray, Luis Castillo, and Anthony DeSclafani. The Cubs bullpen has been very good over their last 7 games, and that's indicated by a 1.80 ERA and 0.88 WHIP during that period of time. The Cincinnati bullpen, as I touched upon earlier, has been very good this season with a respectable 3.54 ERA and a 1.23 WHIP. They've also converted 18 out of their 25 save opportunities, which is more than respectable, 72% of the time. Let's look at the opening game of the series this evening. And by the way, currently as we speak, the Chicago Cubs, 5 Dimes is listing them as a minus 111 money line favorite tonight at Cincinnati. It'll be Cole Hamels for the Cubs tonight and Sonny Gray for the Cincinnati Reds. And Hamels has been absolutely lights out over his last 5 starts with a .00 ERA, and an 0.89 WHIP. As a matter of fact, he's been pretty solid all season long. In 16 starts this year, Cole Hamels has a stellar 2.92 ERA. Sonny Gray comes into this game in bad form off his last three starts with a 6.00 ERA and a 1.53 WHIP. Pretty lofty numbers. However, somehow the Reds managed to win all three of those games. Saturday's game 2 will be played during the day, 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time start. It'll be Jose Quintana on the mound for the Chicago Cubs, and he'll be opposed by the Reds ace Luis Castillo. The Cubs are just 6-10 this year with Quintana as their starting pitcher, and that includes 1-5 in day games. As a matter of fact, in those 6-day games that Quintana has started for the Cubs this year, he's posted a sizable 6.29 ERA. Castillo is like I touched upon, is the Reds' ace. He's made 16 starts this year and has a terrific 2.59 ERA in those outings. The series finale will take place on Sunday afternoon, 1:10 p.m. Eastern Time scheduled start. It'll be lefty John Lester against righty of the Cincinnati Reds, Anthony DeSclafani. And Lester, in its last three away starts, I should say, has been terrible. How terrible? How about a 10.80 ERA and a 2.13 WHIP during those outings? Now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, and on a more positive note for Chicago Cubs backers, in 6 starts in day games this year, Lester has an excellent 2.32 ERA and an 0.94 WHIP. Anthony DeSclafani will be making his 16th start of 2019. In his first 15 starts, he's compiled a lofty 4.70 ERA and a pretty decent 1.37 WHIP. In 8 starts during the day, very concerning for Reds backers. DeSclafani, during those 8 starts, 6.52 ERA and a 1.58 WHIP. I really like the starting pitching matchups for the Chicago Cubs in this series against the Cincinnati Reds. And like we already touched upon, the Cubs will be facing 3 right-handed starters this weekend. They've gone 37-27 this season against right-handed starters. The Reds, on the other hand, facing 3 southpaws, and they're 9-10 versus left-handed starters this season, and have amassed just a poor 682 team OPS in those 19 games. I'm going to take the Cubs as a slight favorite in this series over the Cincinnati Reds. Until the next time, I'm Ross Benjamin. Good luck with all your picks.